Hi, my name is Jennifer Bonomo, and I am one of the school counselors here at Leigh High School. I am going to present to you the ninth grade parent presentation from last 2 nights ago, and we are excited to have you here viewing this, and we want to welcome our class of 2029. So I'll start with the agenda. I'll show you who all the counselors here are here at Leigh and what caseload they support, and we'll go into supporting your student at Leigh and what you'll expect from the rest of high school and this school year. I will also cover A to G requirements needed for graduation requirements, and as well as the A to G requirements for applying to a state university system. We will also show you the intelligences survey and how to access that with your student from californiacolleges.edu. I have an upcoming event to announce that it has been announced in Ms. Steingard's messaging every Friday, but I just want to go over that flyer as well. And of course, we won't be able to have time to have questions, but if you do have questions, I encourage you to reach out to your student's counselor. So again, welcome. Meet your counselors. So we have Miss Malaga. She sees students A through CHE. She is on the far left. And you'll notice that she is in for Miss Pottishman, who will be returning in the spring semester. We have myself, Miss Bonomo. I see students with last names CHI through G. And then we have Miss Gonzalez. She sees students with last names H through LED. And then we have Mrs. Melachich in the middle, who works with students LEE through N. And Miss Rodriguez will work with students whose last names begin with O through SHE. And then Mrs. Bencomo, who works with students with the last names SHI through Z. You'll also see here on the right, we have Mrs. Betty, who works in the College and Career Center, housed in the library. And we have Frances Piasecki Andrews, who is our registrar. She will be the person you would request an official transcript for a summer program, or if you need any other transcript or record related concerns. Here we have the Canvas class of 2029 counseling page, and we have a QR code for your student. They received an invitation this week to enroll in that class. We'll just accept the course request, and that is where we house all of our announcements and any information related to the freshman year. So it's really important to have your student check that Canvas page and see if there's anything that they have missed or need to follow up on. We are able to also email the students through that Canvas course. The students can email us directly outside of our Gmail. So if they have questions they want to ask us, they may do so there. So this transition to high school, you'll notice that there's more independence here at Leigh High School. Your team will be expected to manage their own time, their schedules, and their choices that they're making, whether it's about classes or friends. And this will lay the foundation for their remaining high school years. So it's so important to understand the resources here at Leigh to be able to support them with that increased independence and advocating for themselves. They're exploring more. They are finding out that they have new interests, and because there's more opportunities here than there were in middle school, more clubs, more sports, more classes, and they can volunteer. So we want to foster that exploration and growth to help them find what they ultimately want to do after high school. The academic demands, they need to apply the middle school skills and take it to a new level, managing more complex coursework, homework, and studying without constant guidance. So we want to make sure that we're, having conversations about their classes and making sure that they are keeping up with them by logging into Canvas and just having those conversations with them in the evenings. You'll see some emotional growth happening. Adolescence brings up emotional ups and downs, which I'm sure you know about already if you have a teenager, and they will develop more sophisticated ways to manage their feelings. Exercising can be really helpful. That's why that PE9 class really comes into play. It's teaching them good habits and good skills for lifelong to be able to take care of themselves. And then some self-management. They will begin setting and working toward personal academic goals. We've already started to have those conversations with your student in their PE9 classes, and we're continuing those sessions into next week. So talking about it with your student this weekend, and saying, hey, how did that go with the counselors? Did you finish your survey, and what were the results? Do you want to share that with me? So definitely talking to them about some of the things that we're doing in our time with them is one way to connect on a different level other than just homework. And then they'll have to have some time management skills and working towards that and some self-discipline to do that. So what to expect from freshman year? Fall, we want them just to begin having good study habits, building on that, studying, following up, making lists, going into Canvas every day. We also want them joining clubs and sports teams. We had a clubs fair over 3 weeks ago, and the kids were signing up. So I'm hearing a lot of the freshmen buzz that they have been going to club meetings and really enjoying them. And also connecting with upperclassmen, because that's how they learn how to get around and maneuver high school sometimes is they ask the upperclassmen what to, well, what do you think about this club and or this sport, or how do I do this? Sometimes the older kids are really good mentors for them, and that's how they're connecting through these clubs and sports. And we want them to become familiar with their graduation requirements now. That's why we're going over this with parents. And then we're doing the same presentation. This presentation looks a little bit different than the kids, but not much. But this is the same information your student is receiving between this week and next week. And we're going over varying programs more in the spring. So that leads me to the spring here. We want them to create a personal email address that's professional, because they're going to start applying to other websites or programs where they'll be required to get emails back. And they cannot put down their my.cohsd email and expect to get a response, because outside agencies are blocked. So that's why it's important to have a personal email, one that they would be able to check frequently, whether that's a shared email with you separately, that might be helpful too. And that's to manage the PSAT and SAT and any other outside college communications. Understanding grad requirements and what they need to graduate from high school, and knowing the difference between our high school graduation requirements and what is required of colleges. Most of our grad requirements align. If not, we require more. So you'll see that in the next couple slides. And then we want to make sure during the summer that, one, they're relaxing, two, that they are spending their time in a meaningful way, whether that's even watching siblings, that's considered work to most schools. And it requires a level of independence and responsibility. So that shows a lot and says a lot about a student who helps to care for other siblings, or helps to work and pay for some of their own things, whether it's small, it doesn't matter. This is meaningful to themselves, and it helps build character. Volunteering, same thing. And then traveling also opens their eyes to other things that are out in the world. So support at Leigh. I think this is posted in Miss Steingart's messaging. She wanted to let everyone know when you're expected to see the counselors, talk to your student or meet with them. And every year it looks a little different because of the programs, because more opportunities happen later into junior and senior year. But we are doing that meet and greet now in the fall. That's the small group for PE9. And then in the spring, the kids can anticipate talking to us again, but more individualized about their specific plan, 4-year or even the 5-year, which would include what they want to do after high school. Because as you all know, that's very important to decisions you make in high school, kind of having an idea of what you want to do after high school, because that helps us drive our classes and course selection. So that's really the key thing we want them to take away from this week and next week when we do the californiacolleges.edu surveys and the assessment results come in. There is a piece that shows their academic not their outlook, but what they would want to take in school to be able to explore that career. Okay, so spending some time looking at that with your student will be helpful, because we will be referencing those surveys when we meet with your student to pick their classes. So how can my student be successful in 9th grade? Be sure they are attending school every day. It's really important that, they know that being successful means participating in class and taking notes in class, being an active participant, and following up if they do miss school, maybe going to tutorial. That's the last one on this list is going to tutorial and seeing what they need to make up. If there's anything missing and they just need to talk to a teacher and they have a question about it because they don't understand, that would be the time to do it. So attending school every day and making sure you're making those connections with your teachers when you don't understand. Understanding grades and when they are administered. This week is ending the 6-week grading period. So there's opportunity. It's just a progress check. Um, there is an opportunity to bring grades up, and students can work with their teachers to look forward to the next 6-week, which is the 12-week progress report. And then by the semester end, they get what's called grades and credits, and they are presented on a transcript. So I will go over how many credits are earned each year and how many are earned overall in high school on the next couple slides. But just know that the semesters, our school year is broken into 2 semesters, and the first semester ends in December, and the second semester ends in May. And we will do those check-ins and look at transcripts with students, obviously, before we start picking their classes for next year. And it's really important for students to know these grading periods because that is what the sports guidelines use to determine eligibility. And they have to have at least a 2.0, a C average, to participate in their sports. Okay, so we explained that completely to the students today. We said you have this week. You've got to check in with your teachers if you haven't, and make sure that you are making a plan to bring up that grade. Checking Canvas daily, there is a to-do list. When they log into their classes on the far right of their Canvas page for each class, there's a to-do list. So it has assignments there that they should be working on. So I really encourage you to sit and look at the student view of Canvas and see what the student is seeing so that you can understand the tools that are in the program. Reaching out to teachers when they have specific questions regarding their class content, however that looks. I have students that are more comfortable emailing prior to them going into tutorial, just so they're preloaded with information before they go in, because that can be nerve-wracking. I still have seniors that I'm supporting and going in and talking to their teachers. So it's just a kid thing in general. It's stressful to talk to adults. We understand that, but the more they learn to advocate for themselves, the better. And more successful they'll be, because then it becomes innate. They will go and do it when they need help. Okay. Other academic support here. Students may meet with their teachers to discuss assignments or help with a class. We talked about that during tutorial. And then they may schedule a meeting with us. And what they might want to do when they schedule a meeting with us, we will look at their 4-year plan. If they don't have any concerns to address, we can just talk about their goals, what they like to do, maybe outside of school. How does that tie into maybe their plan at school? And then maybe kind of look a little bit into the future where they would want to be so that we can start utilizing those californiacolleges.edu surveys. They can get support with managing a class load. Sometimes it might be even the smallest adjustment of how they're studying, where they're studying. Do they make lists outside of that to-do list? Is that working for them, or does it need to come out of the computer and onto a piece of paper, or a calendar? Or how are they prioritizing the harder classes first and then they don't get to the other class? Like, we look at the entire picture and work with the student to see how we can manage helping them with that. And then looking into next year's classes to see if there's any adjustments that need to be made. We will go over transcripts with them and we will see, what their eligibility status is in that California Colleges EDU. Now we have access to seeing their eligibility. Now, freshmen won't see that until January, about mid to late January, when grades get posted to the transcript. So I won't be able to help them right now with A to G eligibility. I can talk to them about how they need to maintain a C- or better in all their classes and support them with that, but we won't know until the grades post. And then when they become seniors, they'll already feel comfortable coming in to see their counselors. They will already know like what to expect. the whole writing letters of recommendation requires an interview. And we want to make sure that they understand that that follow-up and reading emails is really important because that's where the information gets pushed out. So I keep talking about tutorial. If you hadn't gone to back to school night to hear about tutorial, you'll see it on your student schedule because they do take attendance. Um, Rules apply to that, just like in any classroom. They're not allowed to be on their phones, and they attend every day unless it's a minimum day. Um, and there are priority days. So if they're struggling in a class, they don't quite have the a D, but they have like a C minus, they can go to these priority days. Monday is English, Tuesday is math, Wednesday is science or other, Thursday social studies or PE, and Friday is world language or visual art performing art. Now, freshmen don't have social studies, so they can go to their PE class. When they're absent from their PE classes, they really need to connect with their PE teacher and see what they missed because they do have to do some sort of activity to make it up for that day. They're just not excused from it. So they do need to work with their PE teacher and try to do that makeup. And then same for all the other classes. If they're missing a quiz or test, they would go to the teacher on this day. If they don't have their own schedule set, I would say this would be a good thing to follow. And that's what I've been talking to freshmen about. Hey, I see that you're going to math all the time. Every day you've gone to math this week. Let's try to spread the wealth a little bit and go to other classes so that we do that check-in and making sure that we have everything we need to pass the class and be successful. So A through G and graduation requirements. We broke this down into a little bit of alphabet soup. So all this means is every subject area is assigned a letter A through G. So A is social science, B is English, C is math, D is science, E is language other than English, or LOTE. I'll sometimes refer to it. So that's the acronym spelled out. F is visual art performing art, or VAPA for short. And then G would be general electives. So in order to earn a high school diploma at Leigh High School, here are all the different subject areas and the amount of credits that they need. Okay, in social science, they need 3 years or 30 credits. And you'll see that it shows you the breakdown of the classes in each grade level. So I'm not going to read through those, but I will note them. For English, you need 4 years, 40 credits. So that's why it's so important to keep up in English because that you need the most, and it's hard to recover that. And we want to make sure kids aren't going to summer school or credit recovery. So we want to see if we can capture it through the school year and get their needs met and support them as much as we can. C is math, and they need 30 credits. 3 years are required, and you'll see on the next slide what the recommendation is. I recommend that students take at least, 4 years of math, and then that's what the colleges are recommending too, because you don't want the gap in math, and then you go on to college, and we want to make sure that they're being consistent with that. Area D, science, they need 3 years or 30 credits, and then we have a specific sequence for our sciences. And I feel like this is the question the freshmen have been coming to ask the counselors. Can I take chemistry this year, or can I take physics next year? No, we have to follow this curriculum. Now, in 11th grade, you will be able to, students may concurrently and try to concurrently enroll in a science with physics, an additional science at Leigh, but it's based upon availability. But you'll see during sophomore year course selection what those options are. And then language other than English, or LOTE we call it, they have to have 2 years of the same language. So we have Mandarin at Leigh, we have French, we have Spanish, and then sometimes you'll hear the kids talk about dual enrollment, American Sign Language. So I know next semester in spring 2026, we will be offering ASL at Leigh. So that if your student is very interested in American Sign Language, it is a college course. It fulfills this 2 year, one semester fulfills the 2 years that are required, the 20 credits. So that's what's really neat about American Sign Language. But if they're sticking to our in-school high school courses, then they need to do Spanish 1, Spanish 2 to meet that requirement, or French 1, French 2, or Mandarin 1, Mandarin 2. And you'll see that 3 years are recommended. That's what they're talking about, the college recommendations. So I'll go over that on the slide. Next slide. So area F, visual art and performing art, they need 10 credits are required to apply to university. They are also required to graduate. And then the other 10 is that CTE VAPA special program. Students can fulfill that and either with a special program like leadership, with a CTE career technical program, or second VAPA, like guitar or filmmaking at SVCT. That would be one that's considered a visual art performing art as well. Okay. And then we need a college prep elective 1 year, and then general electives 2 years or 20 credits. And then they need physical education 2 years, 20 credits. And then later on in the year, we'll talk about sports PE and marching band PE with the students. And then here are the A to G requirements. Basically, the slide looks very similar to the previous one. Just note that colleges recommend these recommendations here underlined. Okay. And then reminder, they need a C- or better to be college eligible, or A through G eligible. Those two terms are interchangeable. And all that means is to be able to apply to a four-year college, you have to have a C- or better in all required courses. Okay. And then earning credits. To graduate from high school, students will need to earn 220 credits and the required amount of credits for each subject area that I just mentioned. Here's the 220 they need to graduate. And then each semester, students can earn 5 credits per class, and freshmen have 6 classes. Okay, so 6 times 5 equals that 30 credits per semester. So when you add up both semesters, it should equal 60 credits. Okay, and they need to have at least a D- or better to be able to earn credits. Okay, so they need to earn at least 220. So we want to make sure they're staying on track with those numerical credits and with each subject area. And then here it says they earn 10 credits for year-long classes, and they earn a D- or better. 6 classes equals 60 credits per year. Okay, and that's what we review with students, making sure that they're on track to graduate. And unfortunately, we went over this with the students too. No credit is earned for Fs. If a student earns an F in a class, a required class for graduation in January, and you've looked at their transcript in Aries, please feel free to contact your counselor, your student's counselor, so that we can make a plan to support them. What grades do I need? This is for your student, not you. They need to have, again, we repeated this so many times in the last week. So just want to make sure that if anything from this presentation, they know that they have to have a C- or better for a four-year college, D- or better to graduate and get the high school diploma. But we told them we want you to keep your options open. So maintaining C- or better, then you can decide what you want to do, okay? And then we want them to keep their options open. So how do I monitor my students' grades? These are the CUHSC parent portals. I'm hoping that you have accessed Canvas and Aries. Aries is where you can check attendance information. That's where the transcripts are. That's where you did your data confirmation before your student started. And this is where students have an account and you have an account also. And it's the single Google sign-in for the kids. Any portal they use with the district, they have to use their single Google sign-in. They'll never create their own password after that point. I mean, they can change it, but they need to use that Google sign-in. And then Parent Square is where Ms. Steingart's messaging comes through. That's where this presentation was posted, but it's the main communication that we're using. We don't like to send messaging during the school day. It's either going to be before school or after school, you'll notice. but you can change the notifications and you can change the language preferences. And also in californiacolleges.edu, you can change the language preferences in that as well. You should be receiving messages from Parent Square and Canvas at this time. Okay. Um, and there's the link. You'll have access to this presentation, the slides, so that you can click on the portal page from the district. If you have any difficulty with these portals, please feel free to contact us. Either the main office can support if you come in or call, or any of the counselors can support you as well. So finally, the fun stuff, californiacolleges.edu. So this is the step that we had your students take. On this website, your students will be able to figure out what they want to be by understanding who they are. They'll discover what they're interested in, and then they'll pinpoint how they learn and work to help them find a career that is a right fit for them. So it has a series of tools in there. I definitely encourage you to go click the link below, because the slide shows the student where to find the intelligences survey that we took with him the other day. I'm not going to click that right now because it'll throw off my presentation, but when you have a moment to click that, it does show you where to find the presentation and how to begin answering the survey. They can take the survey up to 3 times in their high school career. I would say the survey now would be fine for this year and next year, but sometimes when kids work, or they shadow, or they talk to adults, or they take classes and with professors, and they learn about majors and different programs that they can go into, that's how they start learning about other careers, and their interests change. So we want to make sure that they're taking that intelligence survey or the personality survey at least twice, so that if they did grow and mature and change, you will have more accurate data. Because sometimes the data from freshman year is kind of outdated in senior year. Okay. So here, I wanted you to know that you can access and create your parent login. So the link below, there's a tutorial on how to set it up. So I put a tutorial for the kids, and then this is a tutorial for parents. You can register your account. You can tell them you're a parent in the first item here. And then what is the name of your school district? It would be Campbell Union High School District, and then Leigh High School is the school. And then you hit next. They're going to ask for the state student ID, or SSID for short. If you are not able to find that in Aries under demographic information or general information, you can reach out to your student's counselor to support you with getting that. But it's always on a printed unofficial transcript at the very bottom where the student's GPA is. Okay, so we encourage you to go ahead and set up an account, because then you can keep an eye on academic progress there, because you will see semester grades there also, and you'll also see whether your student's on track to be A to G eligible. So that's the really cool thing with this new portal that we're using. And we started using this last year, but this year we're really delving into getting the parents on board to monitor there as well. So here's what we did with your student. So discover their strengths. They went in to find out, they had to tell them what they thought they were good at, what they liked to do. And then the results came back, and they had to, based on how they answered, it told them what they were good at, how they can improve, how they can use that in the academic classroom. And then they had them look at careers, and they had a lot of fun really looking at careers, because they could see how much money they would make and what the job outlook would be. So I really encourage you to look at that report. The kids can download a PDF and print it so that you can look at it outside of the computer, which is really nice to take notes if you want to do that. But once they completed the intelligence survey, they reviewed the results, and they can save it to explore and research further. I told them to have fun with it. So we went over the different types of intelligences. The summary gives them top 3. I mean, there's more, but there's going to be 3 that they answered more predominantly, the responses. So we told them just to focus on those 3, because it was kind of overwhelming to go into all of them. So their top 3, they went in and they dug even further to look at why it answered that way. And then they had to kind of buy in. They had to check off things that they thought were more like them. And you'll see on the report that the items that your student checked off. And then they had to almost commit to like looking into ways to improve and develop that specific intelligence, like if they wanted to, right? So I thought that was really neat that it had a buy-in piece to it and like a next steps. So CCGI, this is where they log in, just so you know what to look at. They just go to that website here. Do not make another account because then it becomes problematic because they can only have one account tied to their state student ID. And then this is what their homepage looks like. And here's the assessment. It didn't really take 20 to 30 minutes. They kind of breezed through the Likert scales, which I struggle with that. So I thought, beyond yes or no questions, from left to right, I think there were 7 items on the Likert scale, but they did very well with it. And they were focused. I said, this is a very serious individual assignment, and you really want it to come out, pretty accurate because that's going to predict a lot of things for you, and you need to be able to focus on it. So they were pretty good about that. They did get a little chatty when they got to the results because they wanted to share it with each other, which was totally fine. And then we put them in small groups, and each counselor sat with their small group of students from that one PE class. And we kind of just went over general things and they asked questions. So they had a lot of counselor FaceTime with us, but they had to share us with other students, but it was a really small group. I'm talking like maybe 5 to 7 kids per group. And so this tutorial here shows them how to access the intelligence test. Okay. And then here's what the Likert scales look like. So they have a lot of questions and it's kind of random things. Do you like to work outside? Do you like tinkering with, mechanical things? So just it's going to put them into different intelligences based on how much they agree or disagree with a statement. And then this is what we wanted them to do. This is the 4 categories that we had them look at. Intelligence is in you, and that's the piece I said they had to buy into and which ones were most like them. So they had to identify which ones, oh yeah, that is me. No, that's not me. So that was really neat. And then developing tells them some tips on how to develop in that specific area and what things they could do, what tasks they could do, what they could do in school. And then emotional intelligence just went over how they can develop that. And then the career and pathways, and they delved into like it broke down even like majors that they needed to study for those specific careers. It had a list of other careers. There's videos. They're at least a minute to 3 minutes, the videos. And it just was a neat way for them to just delve into it. And we'll be doing a lot more of that over the next couple of years. And then this is what that looks like. The top 3 are the top 3 green here. So this person had those 3 intelligences and they click on the arrow and this is what presented for them, their strengths, their challenges. Okay, and they had to click which one was most like what they thought, which one they most aligned with here. And then it talks about the top careers, famous people who were strong in that intelligence, which they were really excited about. That was kind of cool. And then this is the screen we wanted them to go into view the details because this is the job outlook and this is how much they can make. So they got really excited when they saw how much money they can make. And then we wanted them to heart. See this little heart here? It's almost like a thumbs up on social media. They get to heart some careers and then they can review just their list that they hearted. Now, I had a couple students or the counselors had a few students that did not have any anything that they wanted. Like their list came up, not anything that they would have desired to have as a career. And that's okay too. They are able to do a search on their own and heart their own careers to make their own career plan so that they are more than welcome to do that. Okay, and then that's where they click the heart and then hover over my plan at the top. This shows you how to do it. And then you can see all the ones they've selected as a favorite to review with you. Okay, and then this is where you can download the PDF or print and they can save it. And then we gave them a to-do list. So we wanted them to make sure they accepted the class of 2020 29 counselor Canvas page, have them check their emails. The invite is there. They just have to click the blue button and it takes it and already accepts it. Get comfortable reading Canvas announcements from counselors, share intelligence and career results with your family, and then check in with teachers this week before the end of the grading period ends to make up assignments, test quizzes, and get to know us because we really do want to get to know them. Lastly, we have the college fair coming up. It is hosted on Lee's campus. It won't be here for another at least 3 years. So we are on a rotation with all the different high schools in the district. So I encourage your students to come to the college fair, even if they just listen. They don't have to ask questions. I just want them to see what's out there and to get immersed in going to different fairs. We also have the career fair and technical fair in the spring. So that's also one to go to. So it's not just college. We are going to be exploring, and you'll see community colleges here as well, junior colleges and community colleges. So it's not just for your university. So it's really open and provides support for every type of student and whatever their career goal is later. Okay, and we have it in English and in Spanish here. And then I just want to thank you, and I appreciate you taking the time to review this presentation, and we look forward to a great year. Go Longhorns.